Hello everyone and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Terran versus Zerg where we find ourselves on Blackburn. Spawning right here in the bottom right hand corner of the map with the red Terran SCVs. From the Netherlands we have uThermal. And this opponent in the bottom left with the blue Zerg drones from South Korea. We are looking at Solar's main base. Now, recently I've been casting a lot of best of 3s as well as a lot of best of 5s. So I figured today, let us just have a look at a very long game of StarCraft 2 that has recently been played, just to figure out exactly what is going on right now in the late game. Now, there are plenty of late game Zerg versus Protoss replays available, but I'm sure that many of you are familiar. So basically what I did is I compiled a huge folder with replays of games that have been played recently, and I selected them on size, and I got rid of the Zerg versus Protoss games just because the late game in ZVP can be a bit of a stalemate. I mean, the same can definitely happen as well in Zerg versus Terran, but I think this probably is going to be a little bit more interesting because the majority of Zerg versus Terran games, they do end quite a bit earlier than this particular replay. Probably like a third of the replay timer. So I'm excited to find out exactly what ended up going down between these two players. Now, obviously, it is a long game. Whether or not it's long enough to mine out the entire map, I don't know, but it's definitely possible. So one thing to note is that Blackburn, it has a bunch of bases that are relatively easy to acquire. Primarily the 12 o'clock position, as well as the 6 o'clock position, are very difficult. So the reason for it is that if you draw like a vertical line from, well, all the way down here to all the way to the top, you can imagine, right, that it's mirrored on both the left side as well as the right side. So it's vertically mirrored. Meaning that, or is that horizontally mirrored? I always get those two confused. Anyways, doesn't matter. What I'm trying to get at, though, is that the 6 o'clock and the 12 o'clock resources are shared. So, yeah, I always like that, especially when we have a longer game on a map like this, whenever there's going to be a lot of contest. At the very least, I'm assuming, for those top and bottom bases. Just because both players will need to try and mine them. But since, obviously, at that point, you are very close to your opponent's side of the map, it's going to be very difficult to pull that off. Anyways, 6 Zerglings right here from Mr. Solar. This is the thing that the Korean Zergs like to do. Solar usually goes for 4 if I'm not mistaken, but apparently against uThermal. uThermal does have some excellent Reaper control. He has decided to go for that 6 Zergling approach. Not entirely sure as to why the Koreans usually like to get 6. If you look at the European Zergs, they will pretty much always go for 4. I guess it's mostly a stylistic choice, but yeah, shouldn't really deal a whole lot of damage here. This very first Reaper. Trying to get some sort of work done. Trying to get that mental edge. Best case scenario, you get yourself a drone and a creep tumor, but realistically speaking, especially with this little ramp rat over here, that should never really happen. Terran right now going for the quick third command center. He's switching that factory on over with, indeed, the reactor that's been built on the barracks. And I'm expecting a starport here shortly after as well. He's going to be able to pump out, there we go, by the way, those 2 Hellions right here at once. Now, as we'll be making this video, uThermal is currently considered to be the rank 29 in the world overall, whereas Solar is currently considered to be the rank 9, according to Ultralisk. So both of these guys ridiculously good. I definitely cover Solar far more often than uThermal. I don't know, there don't seem to be as many uThermal replays out there. I would like to cover him more often because obviously he's from the greatest country in the world, right? Yeah, he's from the Netherlands. Totally not biased at all. No, but there's quite a few players. Like, for example, the replays that I cast these days are either from, like, the biggest tournaments and then usually the later stages of those events, or, for example, from the ESL Open Cups, those smaller weekly tournaments, or the occasional Olimo League, or the Alpha X events. And it seems to me that uThermal doesn't really participate in as many of those weekly events. Not entirely sure what this particular game is from, by the way. I just know that it was played in, I think, late January. So, yeah, anyways. Doesn't really matter all too much. But yeah, because of that, I haven't covered uThermal as often as I would like to. Little bit of an ambitious Reaper scout right there. Didn't really get a whole lot of for his life there. Probably wanted to check the back of the main Zerg mineral line just to see if there's like a hidden roach warren, or, well, I guess at the very least it saw that it wasn't a very quick lair. For what it's worth though, uThermal, everything is a-okay. Nothing out of the ordinary here from the Zerg player whatsoever. The Zerg just happily holding down that drone button. This is a map where it's quite difficult to get damage done with Hellions. So we have actually seen players go like quick triple CC and then even with like a double barracks as a follow-up. uThermal going for the quintessential standard early game right here from Terran. Quick third command center. Some Hellions. A Liberator right now comes up and then a transition towards that Stimpak. Yeah, so the problem is on Blackburn, if you want to harass your opponent's third base with those Hellions, sure, you can try and go in through this choke point, but the Queens can very easily hold that. So you kind of have to cycle all the way around, and then eventually you might get some damage done over there. But obviously Zerg, yeah, they're going to have vision from usually Overlords, as well as that creep spread. So the Queens, I mean, they will just walk, you know, that short little bit of distance. So Hellions usually not super successful on this map. Okay, so we do have the additional barracks production right now. uThermal has already landed the third base. In the meantime, on the side of the Zerg player, we see the double upgrades first, then the lair, and then the Baneling Nest. So this is a very upgrade-focused early game right here from Solar. Definitely does mean that his Baneling speed will be a little bit later. Queens? Queens, where are we going? Are we chasing that Liberator? Alright. Well, that definitely creates an opportunity for these Hellions, yeah, to just try and run in. One of the Hellions there gets caught. Oh my god. I just talked for like 2 minutes about why Hellions usually suck on this map. Is that the caster curse that I've heard so much about? Okay, good body blocking right there. The Queen's looking very thick, but I mean, 10 Hellions there for 16 drones obviously looks pretty good, but it's not really the end of the world for the Zerg player either. Obviously, any Marine push right now as a follow-up is going to be a little bit weaker because those Hellions aren't going to be present. Usually you want to morph whatever leftover Hellions you have, maybe into Hellbats or something along those lines. And, well, at some point, I guess the Hellions also do lose their value, but it is really easy to look at this as a Terran player in particular and think, oh my god, I am so far ahead right now. And I do think it's an advantage here for Zerg, or for the Terran player rather, but it's really not the end of the world here for the Zerg player at all. That being said, obviously, that shouldn't have happened like that. I think he just, like, kind of got caught up on his own Evo chambers there, and then the Queens couldn't reach the Liberator? I'm not exactly sure. Anyways, Liberator apparently did get picked off eventually as well. Yeah. So, decent early game. Couple of Banelings here, trying to be ambitious. They're just trying to walk into that mineral line, but with the Baneling speed being very late with that late lair, it's not going to happen. Not until Baneling speed at the very least is done. Both players, though, very careful with their building positioning, making sure that they, don't really get caught off guard whatsoever, and that's exactly what uThermal is doing, creating these, like, lines of Terran structures. So if Banelings want to go in, they will first off have to get rid of the supply depots or walk all the way around, but obviously that gives you way more reaction time as the Terran. Alright, so both players have finished up 1-1. Stimpack, of course, is done at this point. It's been done for a little while. I like this. Scan towards the high ground. No, you should get that one too, bro. I always get way too greedy with those creep tumors, but anyways. I like this spot. Yeah. Siege tanks here are in range of the gold base. He sieges up right as the hatchery finishes, so no opportunity there to cancel. Solar could try and go for a wraparound here, but obviously, yeah. I like this spot a lot for Terran. This is really good. For what it's worth, though, Solar did double expand, so he did not take the 4th base and then, a macro hatchery. He decided to take a 4th base and a 5th base at the same time. So, in a way, that was like, a macro hatchery that was planted on the gold base location. Not the end of the world here for the Zerg player. But so far, uThermal definitely going toe-to-toe. Alright. Armory, of course, at this point is done. So we're gonna go into those siege tank upgrades as well. Zerg already planted down the infestation pit, so I'm expecting a hive here very soon as well. Macro hatchery right now will be planted down as well. Should go for a hive any moment. Yep, there it is. The idea being that you can go straight into 3-3 as soon as the hive finishes up. Hydrogen probably will be planted down as well for the Zerg player here soon enough. To be able to transition towards those lurkers. Yeah. He's not done so just yet, so maybe he's got something else in mind. Thing is, though, lurkers, of course, just simply the best go-to option. Alright, those Marines completely left on their own. uThermal does have to be careful, though. 2-2 is finishing up for the Zerg player in about, I don't know, 20 seconds, 30 seconds or so, and it is ahead of the Terrans. So that does mean that there's going to be an upgrade lead here for Solar, and if he sits out here for too long... Yeah, 10 seconds remaining right now. I think that Solar is going to go for a collapse on top of his army. 5 seconds remaining on those upgrades. He's got to go, though, within the next half minute. Because if he doesn't, then Terran is also going to have his own upgrades. Beautiful move right here by Solar. Siege tanks, though, yeah, still in a painful spot. Good target firing with the siege tanks as well on those clumps of Banelings. But eventually, the Zerg swarm is a little bit too powerful. And Solar does break out of that contain. That being said, uThermal, he's got plenty of reinforcements on the back of this as well. He goes straight into 3-3, it seems. Very good. Alright. Do we not have a 4th command center yet? Oh no, he opted to go for additional production instead. I like it, but like you kind of force yourself to win right now. So, if you don't win with this army that you've got, if Zerg player just sort of deflects you relatively easily, you're gonna be in a lot of trouble. Because Zerg is gonna sit at a healthy amount of mineral fields to mine from, and Terran is obviously capable of repositioning this. Okay, there finally goes to 4 CC, but that one's super late. I mean, we saw the 3rd command center finished at like 4 minutes. Yeah, I think that uThermal probably was intending on winning earlier, but it's not gonna happen. Solar a little bit too good for that. Solar, by the way, going into the Ultralisk cavern. He successfully read the situation that this game is currently in. He realizes that, yeah, lurkers would be okay, but Ultras do the job just fine when it's a fully marine-based army. And since there's no 4th command center, there's not really the option here for the Terran player to go for a very aggressive transition towards like Mass Marauder with Ghosts and Liberators and all that. Yep, Solar even giving up the top left. I quite like this, actually. Solar making some high-level moves. He's probably going to cancel that one too, just transfer the drone zone over towards that base. Now he scouts the 4th command center here of the Terran player, so maybe a little bit ambitious, but he just invested tons of resources here into getting his, well, Ultralisks to the maximum upgrade, and those upgrades aren't done yet. So, giving up the expos there, not a terrible idea. Alright. So, Ultras. I've got a love-hate relationship with Ultras, man. They're good, and they can be very strong, but oftentimes they sort of just die before they even get close to being in the battle. That's their main issue. They're very big, they're very clumsy, they get stuck on everything, they get stuck on Zerglings and everything too, so it's very easy to accidentally, yeah, not have those guys engage whatsoever. But they can tank a lot of the shots, especially with chitinous plating, which is the upgrade that's finishing up right now. It's gonna give them some additional armor, so the Ultras definitely are gonna be very strong. Liberators, though, they're natural enemy. Oh, Blinding Clouds right there on the siege tanks as well with the Vipers, though. Nicely done. Ultras and Lings and Banes, they're all melee units, so they don't really care about those Blinding Clouds. Planetary coming up over here? Alright, some good Baneling hits as well. But that is not the position where I expected that command center to end up in. But apparently uThermal is going to put a Planetary right there in the choke point, while simultaneously adding on more and more CCs. uThermal is going to have to get a new base up and running very soon, by the way. Because his 3 command centers are going to run out very quickly. Yeah, look at this. 18 out of 8, 16 out of 8, 18 out of 12, or 20 out of 12 right now even. He's going to need to secure a new expansion. So even though the trades here by the Terran player have been very cost efficient, Solar just simply has had more fresh resources to mine. Alright. Gold base coming up. Is there something that Solar can do to really prevent this one from happening? I don't really see it happening, right? Like, you can't really... Lurkers obviously can deal damage here from the back, so can Hydras, but Lings and Banes aren't going to be able to pull that off. I mean, you can abduct one SCV at a time, maybe, but... You can actually get Banelings into, like, this little nuke on the other side and then manually detonate them. Like, they can't go through the mineral fields, but since it does deal splash damage, you can kind of blow up SCVs that way, but not really very easily harassable. uThermal now actually going for the double expend. I think this is probably the most dangerous part in the game for uThermal so far. Base in the top left. No cancel. Yeah. I like that uThermal is keeping up the pressure. Another base. No. Okay. I was going to say no cancel, but it was canceled. Eventually, though, a couple Corruptors have come out as well, and that's going to shut down these drops once and for all. It's going to be very difficult now for the Terran player to continue fighting there. That being said, uThermal now has secured 2 more bases. Finally, Solar scouts it as well, but it's a little bit too late. Planetary is already finished up. I really do like this Planetary over here in the choke point. Like, if Zerg wants to go for any run-bys to the main, the natural, the third, even the Planetary over here, they're pretty much always going to run past this Planetary, so I guess, yeah, could deal a lot of damage. Just seemed a little bit greedy because he was running out of money there, but using the map terrain to his advantage. Okay, Nidus network coming up. It's Gonna allow Solar to tunnel units from one side of the map to the next. Right now, obviously, we've seen the Ghost transition in full effect for a little while as well, so we're soon gonna be up to 10 Ghosts, and that's when the Ultras really start, yeah, sucking. They're great against pure Marine tank armies. They're not so good against Liberators, and they really suck against Ghosts. One thing, though, that Ultras are really good at, they're just, yeah, constantly counterattacking over here. Still, enough units over there. It's gonna be just fine. In the meantime, though, inside of the main base, a Nidus Worm is brewing. Is trouble brewing? Okay, sorry. It's like 12 people here that understand that reference. Nah, actually, there's probably more of you that played Warcraft. Alright, Nidus Worm inside of the main base. A couple of units do pop out. Obviously, since the Terran player is pushed to the front right now, there's not a whole lot of units available in the main base. They do come scrambling back in. Look at the Ultra right there. Did you see the full Ultralisk derp? They spent half their time walking, and the other half dying. They're really kind of awkward. Yeah. Snipes. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, the majority of them got out. Nice. Nicely done. At the same time, the Ultras have repositioned themselves towards the top right-hand corner. Once again, a really good positioning right here by uThermal. uThermal's doing some excellent building positioning this game so far. I really like it. The siege tank right there, notched between two command centers. That is not just coincidence. That is, well, I'm assuming at the very least by design. Just so little surface area, making it much, much harder for those Zerg units to actually get in on top of that. We saw it, yeah, the entire game so far. Very nicely done. Easily overlooked at the very least. Another Nidus Worm goes up in the main base. There is a siege tank, but not in the right position. Solar once again thinking about giving up this expo. Alright. Ultras over there, not really getting a whole lot done. They're gonna try and go into the main base. Cost-efficient trade there. I think most of these guys, though, or most of the attention right now in this game from these guys is currently over at these battles over here. Yeah, Solar just giving up the fights. Like, he doesn't really want to fight off creep, and he knows that it's going to be very difficult to push in, right? These slowing zones make it super difficult for Zerg to actually get a favorable engagement. Do you think uThermal's going to make more planetaries in key locations? I feel like that is... I feel like that's something that's not explored a whole lot. Obviously, planetaries are expensive, right? But this positioning here, yeah. He's going to put down another one. Alright. Now, apparently, Solar has thought about this as well. He's decided that, yeah, in order to deal with that effectively, if you don't have lurkers, you're gonna basically have to go for Brute Lords. So, about 8 Brute Lords coming up right now. Planetary is gonna finish up soon enough, and that's gonna make it hard for this ground army to get much work in. That being said, though, I don't think that Solar has shown himself that he's going for Brute Lords here. Obviously, we did see Corruptors already here as a Terran player, so you never really know if that's just going to be to clear out all of those Liberators or if he's actually planning on going Brutes. That being said, obviously, Ghosts and Marines and, you know, all of those units are already pretty good against Brute Lords anyway. Okay, Gold Base being harassed once again. Yeah, uThermal is incredibly good at harassment. Crazy multitasking, not really taking a lot of damage at home, although I think this may very well be a command center that's just about to disappear. Still a lot of Terran units over here, and the command center actually lives. Solar is playing an extremely safe game today. I've seen him take a lot more gambles. Maybe he... yeah, maybe he just thinks it wasn't a great idea for him to play aggressively, but the 6 Zergling start against the very first Reaper already kind of was an indication of that. Maybe he thinks that in like a long macro game, he's going to be the favorite. Or maybe this is just the way that he, well, was playing that day. But he's playing a very cautious game. Giving up expansions left, right, and center. Making sure that he does not take an engagement that goes horribly wrong. Alright. Vikings are going to be the next unit added into the mix here. Zerg ground armies just trying to get work done, but... another orbital command here. The Iron Bank has been built for uThermal. uThermal is soon going to once again run into the same problem, though, that we saw earlier, where now his outer bases are going to run out of resources, too. Okay, Zerg should be able to finally kill a base here, but there's already an orbital command. Oh, well, no, he just cancels the orbital and decides to lift up the CC. I think that one is going to turn into a planetary, although one cheeky little Zergling managed to burrow just barely in time. It's blocked. He's gonna have to scan. Just annoying. Anyways, plenty of orbitals available though, so plenty of scans here for the Terran player as well. Zerg, by the way, has added on both Infestors and Vipers now. Very difficult unit composition to micro correctly. The Zerg player now has Ling, Bane, Ultra, Queen, Viper, Infestor, Brute Lord, Corruptor, Overseer, Spore Crawler? I don't know how many hands Solar has, but he's mixing in a little bit of everything. Anyways, what I was trying to bring up, though, is that soon, Terran's gonna run out of money again. Top right-hand corner. He's gonna be very critical. This base is, yeah, soon to run out. Gold base, obviously, mines out very quickly as well. Meaning that we are getting to the point where neither of these two players really has a lot of resources to mine. Solar already did take the 12 o'clock position once. 6 o'clock position so far hasn't been taken by either of these two players, but we are getting to that starvation mode right now, right? Currently, there's still plenty of money in the bank for the both of them, but as they keep fighting, the resources are slowly gonna run out. And that's where the game gets very intense. It's already been pretty intense, but that's where I think the game is gonna be very interesting and where it will probably be decided. Neither player right now at a significant advantage. Upgrades-wise, yeah, I think things are looking pretty good. Wouldn't mind seeing maybe even a, yeah, second armory. Alright, uThermal gonna start double upgrading his mech units as well. For now, it mostly comes down to, I guess, the flyers as well as those siege tanks. But as we've seen Maru do recently, Maru very good in late-game Terran versus Zerg. He has been mixing in full-on mech. Well, would you look at that? Another addition I really like. Tactical nukes. Currently being researched. There are 100 minerals, 100 gas each. Not cheap whatsoever, but definitely something that Solar in particular has had some problems with in the past. I don't know if you guys remember those replays. I think there were 2 games on Romanticide, if I recall correctly, where Solar thought he picked off the ghost that was casting the tactical nuke. Tournament replays, that is, and he like lost his entire flock of units to, you know, a nuke twice, like in 2 separate games. So I guess Solar has a little bit of nuke PTSD. Anyways, it happens to the best of them. Tactical nuke being deployed towards the front line. It's this nuke right over here, or this ghost rather right over here. It's very easy to think you've just sniped the correct ghost, but not the case. Anyways. Yeah, cool nuke, but not really getting a whole lot of damage in. Planetary fortress, oh sorry, parasitic bomb rather. Dealing a lot of damage here to these Terran flyers. And honestly, it seems like there are enough, yeah, Brute Lords still left over to just clean up whatever ground army the Terran player has. 12 o'clock expansion, once again acquired by the Zerg. But the creep spread is kind of lacking, right? We haven't really had creep spread in this section of the map at all, so it's going to be difficult for the Zerg player to get into that position. Brute Lords are pretty good though on Blackburn. Just because there's not a lot of vertical space that they need to cover. As long as they kind of hover around this section of the map. Usually they can be in on every fight. On other maps it can be difficult for the Brute Lords to be in the right position at once because they are so slow. But on this map it's hard for them to miss a critical battle. Makes them a little bit better. Thors, by the way, being added on here, as well as 3 more factories. That is cool. Alright. So I've seen Mr. Maru do this a lot. Honestly, if you would have covered up the names in this replay, judging by the way that uThermal is playing here, it's basically Maru, right? Cancelled the gas and went for the hedge. Now uThermal's flying over a command center. He's gonna try and land it over here and soon find out, indeed, that another hatchery is brewing over there. Bio Army gonna go back in for round 2. Command center lands right next to it. Ooh, are we gonna morph in a planetary over here as well? Eh, you know what, I kinda like it. Although Brute Lords obviously from a distance can still get rid of that pretty easily. Neuroparasites now coming up as well for the Zerg player. So he can start neuraling Thors, which, yeah, pretty good idea. I like the aggressive planetary deployment. It is different than the way that Maru plays it, right? So Maru much quicker on the 4th and 5th base. But, yeah, there's a lot of themes going on here that are similar. Marine Marauder Medevac into Ghost and then into Liberators and eventually full-on Terran mech. the Iron Bank, as in like about 10 or so, probably like a dozen or so orbital commands. It's very cool. Oh my god, huge EMP right there. Another tactical nuke, by the way, coming right up. Great multitasking here by uThermal. I'm very impressed. uThermal is playing an excellent game here so far. Alright, I think we need a new command center over here, though. One of the orbitals probably should go over there. 6 o'clock base, also currently being acquired. uThermal does see a little exclamation mark there, so he realizes that it's building. That's the sensor tower right there, giving him some additional intel. I think sniping the creep tumors over there is a great idea. Careful now, Mr. Solar. We've seen this go horribly wrong in the past. Yeah. Upon scouting, though, that the entire Brute Lord flock is currently up north, apparently uThermal decides to go for the base down south instead, and I kind of dig it. Brute Lords are slow enough. I think you can't really hold both 6 as well as 12 here if you're Solar. I don't think you can. I think you can only choose one. Brute Lords are just too slow. Problem is, since Terran has been trading more cost efficiently, if you give Terran this base and then you have the 6 o'clock, for example, you're gonna mine an even amount of resources in the end. And obviously, since Terran's trading more cost efficiently, it becomes a real issue. Second time, by the way, that this happened. Alright, +3/+3 coming up for the Terran player, for the Terran mech. The Thors are so scary here, though. There's 8 of them available at this point. Neural parasites, I think, are going to be very critical. So, infestors have a skill that allowed them to temporarily take over Terran units. So they can, well, neural each and every one of these Thors if they get into the right spot. And obviously then, if the Thors temporarily switch sides, you can imagine what kind of drama, yeah, comes out of this. Solar here continues harassing the command centers that were trying to take this position too. I mean, the trading here seems to be better for the Terran player. Yeah, so he's lost less resources. But you can't forget here about the fact that Terran also built, like what, 15 command centers this game so far? Those aren't free. Like, what I'm saying is that, sure, there is a resource advantage here for the Terran player, but a lot of those resources are, yeah, spent on additional command centers, so it's good, but it can also become an issue if the game goes on for too long. For the Terran player, that is. 4 more command centers come up. My god. Mark is going crazy. I love how we're nearly half an hour into this game and no one's won yet, right? Like, I don't even know who's winning this. Tactical nukes flying all over the screen. This time around in the center of the map. Just to sort of like stress the Zerg player out, force them to sit back. At the same time, this now gives the Terran here the opportunity to move forward. That being said, that is an awful lot of Brute Lords. Once again, big EMPs, by the way, here, it seems, on those infestors, because they have run out of energy. That's the real strength, right? Those ghosts are so incredibly good. My god, that is so many brutes. Yeah, if it was 22 versus 22, the Thors would win easy peasy, but there's 2 Brute Lords for every single one of the Thors, and since obviously this is a choke point over here, and the Brute Lords can stack up together, whereas the Thors can't, they kind of like trip over themselves, just like Ultralisks do. I think this is a ghost with a mission. Yep. Careful now, Mr. Solar. Alright. Does manage to snipe the ghost, which does cancel the nuke. Alright, Terran. Mining the bottom base. Solar. Mining the top base. Terran should be able to mine out the bottom base very quickly if he drops a couple of mules there. But I guess he's saving them up for scans here. He's got so many command centers, though. It's kind of wild. It's not something you see all too often. Spore crawlers killing a command center. Could be a viewer-submitted game. fusion core coming up for uThermal as well. I mean, it's probably just for Liberator ranged. There's an upgrade called Advanced Ballistics. Is this the one we're trying to take, uThermal? Really? Really? The most ambitious project he's undertaken so far. I don't see that being a very successful one, but I guess if you can mine out these mineral fields, that'd be nice. Takes like 2 mules per mineral field to mine that out fully. Anyways, it could be for battle cruisers, right, is what I'm getting at. He should probably stop adding on command centers. He's gonna run out of money. Like, I genuinely think he's got too many. So he's lost 6 command centers so far this game. And he has... let's see. So that would make 8. 8 plus 12. He's literally made 20 command centers. Right? Did I do math correctly? I don't want to do math because it's a bad idea to do it in a video. But like, it's very easy to accidentally embarrass yourself. But there's, give or take, 20 command centers in this game. At 400 minerals minimum, plus whatever attachment you get on top of them. Say it's probably an average of 500, yeah, resources each. That is a ton of resources on freaking command centers, man. That's... if this game keeps going the way it is, Solar is actually gonna get the advantage because of it. I think he got a little bit carried away. As much as I love it, I think 20 might be a little too much. Yeah, so there's the Liberator ranged upgrade. uThermal's probably looking at this though, and he's like, yeah, I've got like 5,000 resources in the bank, what do I do? And sure, that might be a lot if you don't, you know that your opponent has 10,000 of them. Careful though, careful though, careful though. Okay, most expensive creep cleaning ever. Command center flying it over here. So uThermal now has scans for literally next game. Okay, maybe not literally, but he's saving up some scans here for whatever Frost Giant game will release at some point in the future. He's got scans for such a long time here. He can basically keep on scanning the Zerg army and never run out. Oh my god, huge fungals, massive blinding clouds over there as well, making those Thors derp out even more so than Ultralisks. Ooh, this is a very good battle right here for Solar, coming in from the high ground. The Zerg spellcasters though, oh my god, yeah. uThermal took a very bad engagement, had his entire army caught off guard. And considering he spent tens of thousands of resources on buildings in this game, he just simply didn't have enough stuff to remax. That's not a problem we normally see in StarCraft 2. Not an issue that normally comes up, but I think uThermal got a little too carried away. Anyways, very well played right there by Solar. GG.